In this episode, I check out the secrets of making perfect börek.
Can't beat the fresh yufka though. That's the secret. They have good pastry.
And I'll learn the art of sausage making from a third-generation butcher for a barbecue, Turkish style.
You guys have got a good life in Turkey.
I'm on a journey to discover the origins and secrets of Turkish cuisine. To really understand this food, I need to get to the source. So come with me as I travel from the Aegean Sea to the plains of Anatolia. From the heart of an empire in the west to the brooding Black Sea of the north. Then it's back to my kitchen to use what I've learned and give it my own spin. This is one place I never thought I'd find myself, in a small boat off the coast of Turkey that has become entrenched in Australian history. I'm on my way to Çanakkale, a city 200 kilometres southwest of Istanbul. But my route has taken me along the narrow Gallipoli Peninsula. You can imagine how terrified all those young men and boys were as they woke up in the morning on these boats, freezing cold, looking up at those cliffs. They're practically vertical. You know, how the hell do you scale that? As an Aussie, I couldn't miss stopping off to see for myself the steep hills where 50,000 Australian soldiers fought and 8,000 died in one of the worst military blunders of the First World War. You know, just reading some of the dedications on the stones. You know, you're talking about kids young as 17 that came here to die. It's heartbreaking. In fact, the youngest known Australian to die was only 14 years old. You know, as Australians, we put a lot of importance in the Battle of Gallipoli, but I think the Turks hold it even a little bit closer. And it's all down to this one man, Mustafa Kemal. It's the man that really led them to victory. As the first president of Turkey, Mustafa Kemal was the founder of the modern Turkish state and was given the name Atatürk, meaning father of Turkey. He held office from 1923 to 1938 and had complete reign to modernise and transform the country. Atatürk's tribute to Anzacs killed at Gallipoli talks about the bond forged between Australians and Turks, a bond that started with soldiers from both sides fighting in trenches only metres apart. You know, all around here it's covered in bushes of rosemary, and it gets me thinking about a story that I heard. Aussies would throw care packages of cigarettes and corned beef, tinned corned beef, and the Turks would throw back fresh cheeses and beautiful produce, maybe even some of this rosemary to spice up that canned beef. It wasn't long before the Turks caught on though. They said, keep sending the ciggies, you can keep that tinned beef. I'm not too sure if it's a peace offering, if it's a threat, but being around all this rosemary is actually making me a bit hungry. So I'm going to head over to Çanakkale and see if I can find something to eat, maybe in with a bit of this rosemary in it. While the Aussie supplies were coming in by ship from far away, the Turks were enjoying fresh produce from their rich agricultural land around Çanakkale, just across the narrow Dardanelles Strait. It's here I'm hoping to track down the secret of great Turkish börek. But I can't help noticing all the changes Atatürk introduced in his efforts to modernise Turkey. The Latin alphabet was adopted instead of Arabic script. Polygamy was made illegal, and women's rights and freedoms were promoted. And my personal favourite, you can now have a beer with your börek, a Turkish fast food that I've been looking for. In essence, a crispy pastry filled with a savoury stuffing. This joint, Yalihani, was once the Silk Road equivalent to a motor inn, with a central courtyard for camel parking. Nowadays, it's a cafe and bar, popular with the uni crowd, and it's not long before I get talking with some of the students.
Where are you from?
From Melbourne, from Australia.
Ah, nice.
So it's a long flight.
Did you come for Gallipoli?
Yeah, we did. I thought it was only important for Australians. Gallipoli was really important for Turks as well. Yeah. The changes that Atatürk brought in, are they still happening today?
Turkish women have freedoms, education, and these things happen, I think, because of this.
Turkey is actually the only Muslim and secular country, and then we always, especially women, feel and live the benefits out of it.
To an Aussie like me, it's amazing to see how one man had so much impact on the Turkish identity. But I'm not here to talk politics, so I'm popping into the kitchen to see why Handan Turkal's Borek is so much better than mine. Hi.
Hi.
You making Borek?
Yes, this is gül börek, rose börek.
Okay. It's the shape.
Yes.
This is the yufka pastry.
Bu karışımla yufkaları hafif ıslatıp yağlayıp ıslatıyorum.
All she's done is mix a little bit of mineral water, some oil and salt, and use that as a sort of moistening agent, which is going to sort of give it a bit of a crispness inside. We normally just brush it in ghee, and it ends up being sort of really fatty. And what's going on the inside?
Patlıcan, soğan, sıvı yağ, yeşil taze biber, kuru soğan, biber salçası.
We make these back at Maha. You can't beat the fresh yufka though. That's the secret. They have a good pastry. You know, you can try to do it with filo, but it hasn't got the same sort of bready consistency. It just goes flaky. The rolled up pastry is wrapped into the shape of a rose and then coated with the mixture, sprinkled with nigella seeds and then popped into the oven for just over half an hour. 35 at 200.
200, yes.
I thought it would take a lot less than that.
Bunun bir püf noktası var. Bir 15-20 dakika sonra börekleri çıkartıyorum. O karışımdan, sudan, yumurtalı sudan tekrar üzerlerine sürüp tekrar fırına koyuyorum bitene kadar.
I was wondering why my borek is always dry inside, and the ones I've had here are so really nice and moist inside. So that's the trick. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. With the secret of good crispy borek under my belt, I'm hitting the streets again. I've heard that Çanakkale is the home to a unique dessert, so I'm keen to check it out. I think this is what we're looking for. You know, they're famous around here for making this paneer halvasi, which is cheese halva. I've always wanted to know how it's made. I've never really seen it, so I'm gonna stick my head in, see if I can have a taste. This is a popular semolina-based dessert, but I've never seen one quite like this. This is what I'm looking for. This is the paneer halvasi. Can I have one?
Yes.
The Usta family has been making and selling this dessert for 3 generations.
Buyurun. Afiyet olsun.
Thank you, thank you. From what they tell me, they're famous for making this around here. And from what I know, it's like a cheese halva, so cheese, but we cook with sugar and semolina. Looks really nice and crunchy. You get that semolina and the sweetness, and it's really beautiful. Some of the other semolina desserts in the Middle East are flavoured with other things like, you know, orange blossom and pistachios. But what makes this really different is the cheese. It tastes great. You make this here. Do you think I can see how it's made upstairs? Yeah? Can I go?
Yes.
Yeah? Great. I'm going to take a peek upstairs and see if I can get the inside secrets. Upstairs, I find Akin Kuyuku sweating over a huge cauldron. Hi.
Hi, hoş geldiniz.
Smells good.
Yes.
What's happening in here?
Sabah süt geliyor. Onu süzerek kazanın içine koyuyoruz. Daha sonra peynir mayasıyla onu mayalıyoruz. Daha sonra içine yumurta sarısını döküp
So basically what's happening is they've almost made like a cheese anglaise. So they've cooked out the milk, they've made the cheese, and they've added some egg yolks to it, and then cooked it out slowly over heat. And I'm thinking that's what's going to give it that sort of silky taste. What the guys are doing now is they're gently pouring in semolina and whisking it through like you would cook a polenta. It's really interesting technique. I think it's actually sort of bringing it all together, and it doesn't seem as lumpy anymore. They'll also add sugar before letting the batch cool, pouring it out onto trays to be scored. And then it's into the oven. How long is it in there?
1,5 saat kadar pişecek burada.
And then it's ready to eat. So an hour and a half later, it comes out, and it's that beautiful stuff we ate downstairs. Thanks, mate. Thank you. Two hours drive from Çanakkale is the tiny seaside town of Asos. The sparkling Aegean waters and a handful of tiny hotels are its main attractions. Asos itself sits directly opposite the Greek island of Lesbos, and this region is still home to a village food culture. I've come to meet up with Metin Tursan, a fabric trader from Istanbul, who's found his spiritual home here.
Shane,
Hey.
how are you?
Good, mate. Thanks for meeting me.
It's a pleasure.
He's promised me a local food feast. But first, we'll have to do the shopping in the neighbouring villages.
So where are we going?
So we're going to see how they make cheese.
Okay.
Okay.
Here in Kurubasi, the dairy aisle, Metan introduces me to Meryem Kuru.
Meryem abla bu
Hi.
Avustralya'dan arkadaşım.
Meryem's making beyaz paneer, a traditional white cheese.
What milk is it? Is it cow's milk, sheep's milk?
Koyun sütü. Koyun sütü.
Sheep's milk.
Koyun sütü kaynanmış, bu da soğuduluyor, öyle çalıyor.
Then they put, what do you call it?
Like a rennet in there?
Exactly.
And is it their animals or do they buy the milk from someone?
Their animals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bunu kıracağız, tuttuktan sonra
Tamam.
torbaya koyacağız, asacağız.
The curd drains in the barn for half an hour before being pressed to remove any remaining moisture.
Şu taşı kaldırın bakalım. Bastırılacak işte öyle.
So the stone just puts pressure on and
Yeah.
takes all the moisture out.
And the stone has to be a river stone.
How long does she leave it under pressure for?
Ne kadar kalıyor üstünde?
15 dakika duracak işte, bu yarım
15
saat falan
minutes.
kaldırıyor ama
Half an
bu
hour.
geçiktirdik.
So it's a really soft cheese.
Yeah.
So that's it, the finished cheese. It's been pressed, strained and ready to go. We'll take some cheese with us and then head on to the next aisle in the village supermarket. Many of Turkey's nomadic tribes, or yuruks, now live more settled lives in semi-permanent villages like this one, Çamkalabak. But they still retain the customs and colours of their ancestors. We've come here to meet Metin's baker, Zubide.
Merhaba.
Merhaba Zübeyde. Bu şeyi yeni yaptın herhalde. Değil mi?
What's in the base of the dough?
Hamurunda ne var Zübeyde? Sourdough.
So they make the sour here?
Yeah.
Wow, where's the oven?
The oven is over
Oh,
there.
outside. Yeah, this is something I wasn't expecting to find in a nomad village. It's a real sourdough, you know, no yeast, no preservatives. They keep a bit of their sour every time and make the next batch. And when you're cooking in a stone oven like that, you already know it's going to be good. Luckily for us, we won't have to wait long. Zubide's baking for the whole village, and she's got plenty of bread ready to go. So this is the finished bread.
It's a finish.
Can I see it? It's hot. It's hot. Jesus. She's got hands like asbestos. It is hot. It's really heavy. They remind me of the Maltese bread. Really heavy, really crunchy. Wonder how dense it is inside. I just have to try some straight out of the oven. Yeah, look how thick the crust is. Oh, still really hot. It reminds me exactly of the bread that my grandparents used to make. Exactly. I could eat it just like that. Some nice olive oil. I'm happy.
Bunları biz alabiliriz değil mi?
Alabilirsin.
Tamam.
We'll chuck a couple of loaves in our shopping cart and whisk them back to Metin's place. A modest little shack that just happens to overlook the deep blue sea and the island of Lesbos. But for me, the real party is inside, with the arrival of local butcher Talat Kakır to show me how to make sucuk, a spicy sausage eaten all the way from the Balkans to North Africa.
You know, I've been looking forward to this. You know, I can already smell the spices and I know what it's going to taste like.
Talat's brought a mince of 80% beef and 20% beef fat, with a bit of fresh garlic mixed through. But the real secret's in the spice. You can definitely taste salt and cumin, but what are the other flavours?
Onun haricinde işte kırmızı toz biber var. Kimyon, karabiber var. Bir de tuz var.
I love cumin.
Oh yeah, it's a beautiful spice, especially with beef.
Yeah.
How long has he been making this sucuk for?
Kaç senedir yapıyor diyor bu işi?
46 yaşındayım, 6 yaşında başladım.
Was his family butchers or is it?
Ailenin de aynı işi yapıyor.
Tabii babamın babası da kasap.
So 3 generations. As he mixes through the spice, Talat adds water to keep the mix from getting sticky. So these are natural sausage skins, dried intestines, yeah?
Bu doğal.
Yeah, natural.
Yes.
The sausage casings are softened in water and then stuffed full of filling. Normally when you do these sausages, you've got sort of a bit of a nozzle with a machine, you can punch it in. But I'm not in my kitchen now. And when you're in other people's kitchens, you do what you're told. So I'm doing it this way. The final step is to hang the sausage. So by tying it up and pulling all the excess meat out of the back, What he's done is he's made it really sealed and taken all the air out, so it's a closed cavity. Done. That's the first time I've made sucuk. I can smell it all on my hands.
Tomorrow morning.
Yeah, still smell it there tomorrow morning. That's great. I've never seen fresh like this, and that spice mix was awesome.
Very tasty.
So as the sun sets over Lesbos and Metin's friends set the table, it's left to the token Aussie to man the barbie. And I want to see if I can taste the difference between the fresh mix we just made on these skewers and the sausage that's been cured.
This was done a few days ago.
Oh, that's the sucuk.
Yeah.
It's been hanging.
Yeah,
Oh, so we can taste it fresh and good.
exactly.
Right, let's make some room. But straight away, as soon as the sucuk went on the grill, you can smell the spices and everything. We've all worked up quite an appetite. And finally, it's time to meet the meat. The flavour of the fresh one, it's almost like it's more bold. The one that's been cured for a while, the flavour's more subtle, it's had more time to develop. I think I like the cured one better, the one that's been hanging for a little while.
Yeah.
Cheers, cheers. Hey. Happy? You guys have got a good life in Turkey. I'm coming back next summer. Today we're taking inspiration from the wild herbs surrounding Gallipoli and the rustic cooking techniques of Turkish tribal cuisine. With feta and sucuk börek, vine leaf wrapped quail stuffed with sucuk, and wilted greens with egg and sucuk bake. So the main reason people come to this side of Turkey, up to Çanakkale and Gallipoli, is for that Anzac link. But what they don't realise, there's also a really strong food culture. And that secret about keeping the börek moist, I'm going to use it now to make my börek. I'm going to make a really smoky eggplant mayonnaise to serve it with. I add some grilled eggplant to a simple mayo I made earlier. Then add tahini, pul biber and lemon zest. Job done. So what we have to make now is the filling. Some sucuk that we've made earlier, the same way we did back in Asos. We're going to need about that much. Quick dice. Doesn't have to be too perfect. You can really see in that pan now it's starting to brown up and all those spices have just gone bang and you can really start to smell it. You can almost hear those crunchy edges hitting against the side of the pan, and that's when you need to start to give it a bit of parsley. And that's done. To tip this filling over the edge, I crumb some store-bought Turkish feta into the sausage mix. And then it's on to filling the yufka pastry. So really similar to what she had in Turkey. A little bit of water, a little bit of salt, a little bit of oil, just to moisten the pastry. And that was the secret. The trick with this is you don't want to overfill it, because then it just shoots out mixture out the side. So just like a spring roll, I suppose, fold over the edges, and then roll up to little cigars. All right. Now, all you want to do is cook the pastry. You know, the inside's already cooked. The sausage is crispy. You just want to heat that cheese and let it melt. And you just know they're going to be good inside. Might as well break one of these open. Bit of that smoky mayo. Look at that. It's all about the sausage. That's a rock and roll. And one of the things I learned, which I'm mad about, was the sucuk sausage, and I was rapt to learn how to make it from someone who's been doing it for so long. So let's get cracking on that. So what I've got is beef mince, 20% fat, cumin, salt, black pepper, and some sweet paprika. And we're going to mix all that up with a little bit of garlic and a touch of water. Just keep it moist. So you can really start to smell all the flavours and all the spices of the sucuk. The first dish I'm going to do is with some quail, but I'm going to do one a little bit later with some silver beet. So I'm just going to take a little bit off, keep that aside, put it in the fridge. We'll be back in a sec. So to get the filling finished, I've just got some bulgur rice, which is a Turkish grain that I've 3/4 cooked. I'm going to add that to the sausage filling. That's just going to give it a bit of lightness because it's got a tendency to be really heavy. Grab some parsley, the whole thing. I'll use the stems and all. And a little bit of rosemary. And I want the stems and everything in there because inside those stems it's full of flavour. And when you mix it with that sausage, it's going to add a little bit of a pop. And all over the hills of Gallipoli, it was covered in bushes of rosemary. So I think a little bit of this dish might just hit the spot. A little bit more water. Just work all those flavours into the sausage. And already this is going to be a great dish. You could probably serve it on its own. Time to start putting it together. I've got some quails that I've already tunnel boned and butterflied. So really, really simply, a bit of that sausage. So I'm just going to pull all those together, just mould the bird close to its original shape. And just to bring it all together, we're going to wrap it in a little bit of a blanket of some vine leaves. All right, so we're just going to put that leaf down with the vein facing up and get that bird in there and sort of wrap it like you would a nappy, I suppose, just to help bring the bird together and just protect that real delicate skin. All right, got a couple of skewers. I'm going to put one through the legs, and I'm going to put one just through the bottom, just underneath the wing bone. A quick drizzle of olive oil and salt before it's into the oven for 15 minutes at 250 degrees. All right, what I've got in these jars is I've candied and preserved some figs and some immature walnuts, and they're absolutely beautiful. And they're really big in that part of the world, in Turkey, in the Middle East. Touch of olive oil, just a little bit of sucuk, because those walnuts and those figs are really sweet. Touch more rosemary. Now you can really smell that rosemary come alive, and they're proper flavours in there. I'm trying to give it a bit of sweetness with some of those figs. Now, one last thing I want to do is I want to cut one of those birds open, just to make sure nice and cooked inside. Oh, look at that. It smells great. Get some of those other birds. A bit of our sauce. Really gorgeous flavours. And that's my Gallipoli-inspired quail and sucuk. Beautiful dish, this next one. So I've just picked out a few different types of greens, some black cabbage, some silver beet, and all I'm going to do is remove the stem, but that you kind of want to saute down with some onions and garlic, whereas the leaves you want to blanch and keep them nice and vibrant, just to remove a little bit of the bitterness. All right, over to the pan. And with that sausage that I reserved before I put the rice in it, before I put the rosemary in it, I rolled it up into some little balls. That's going to go in the pan. I'm going to release all those spices and all that beef fat and a little bit of the dried sausage, just for a contrast in flavour. And I know everyone's saying fat is a bit bad for you, but in this one, you kind of need a bit. So to make that even more special, I'm going to add a bit of butter. Now, there is a bit of method to my madness. When that melts down, I'm going to hit it with some sherry vinegar. That's going to help cut all that fattiness. Before the vinegar, a bit of onion. As the onions start to caramelise, I add garlic, then the green stems. Then I blanch the leaves before adding the vinegar. All right, there's some really good things happening in this pan. You can smell all that sort of harshness of the vinegar's gone, and all you're left with is this sweet, beautiful flavour. It's time for the greens. No need to strain it off or refresh it. Straight into the pot. Make sure all the butter gets through all those leaves. I'm going to give it a quick season with some of that red Turkish pepper. This is a simple, simple village-style dish, but it's going to be one of the best things you ever cook. Almost done. Just one more step. So it's all of our green goodness all in the pan. It's looking great. It smells even better. One last thing. Just going to crack a few eggs over that. Then I add some salt and pop it into the oven for 5 minutes to set those eggs. And that is spot on. That's a beautiful dish to share with the family.